Hello, everybody. We are here living the authentic life, and our guest this week is the unstoppable, fierce Gracie Cavnar. And welcome. You have been a force of nature through this city, but across the country. And a lot of people talk about what the country needs. A lot of people talk about how we need to do things with our youth, and you are doing it. You are changing the way children eat by educating them. You are giving them ideas to be healthy. You've worked with over 35,000 kids. I mean, what a testament.
I think even more now, right? I mean, because it just
keeps
every year just
growing.
Yeah.
And you have built this incredible farm, Hope Farms. What a beautiful name. When we have hope, anything's possible. And these beautiful flowers are from there. But you're not just giving back to the community through the farm and through these beautiful flowers and vegetables, but you're having veterans work there and you're bringing kids to learn. So finally, I'm at a loss of where to start. Like, how does this, I didn't even know how to break into it, because it's all, how does one actually do it? Because it's so much.
It is a lot. And I'm older now, but I've always just had a lot of energy and determination. And I'm a Texas girl. Right?
Yes, San Antonio,
San
come Houstonian.
And a little rebellious, and the oldest in my family. And if someone says to me, "Oh no, impossible," I'm the hold my beer, right? Let me just show you how it can be done. It's good news, bad news, right? Mm-hmm. For years, literally for years in my family, when I would say, "Oh, I have an idea," that'd be like a 4-letter word in my family.
Right.
Like, "Oh, please stop it with the ideas. Enough already." Like, we're all tired.
I can imagine. And so did your siblings feel like they couldn't keep up with you, or were they always competing with you?
Oh my gosh. Thank God we're all at the age we are now. And that's also kind of settled out because I was the oldest.
Yes.
And now we have a morning Wordle game, right? That's how we're all over the country, and we chat every morning with each other based on competing with each other. Not really competing with each other actually at all on Wordle. But yeah, I think it was tough to be my little sister. Mm-hmm. Right? It was tough. And there are several of us who share a lot of personality traits, mm-hmm. right? But then everyone has gone kind of in completely different directions. And my sister, who was just younger than me, mm-hmm. was close enough behind me in school that she had some of my same teachers. I wouldn't have wished that on anyone, right?
Because there's an expectation after working with you. And I've heard teachers say, because I'm raising a very smart, precocious young woman, that it's harder to raise a smart, precocious young woman. It's certainly gratifying because the passion's there and the effort's there, but
they're not perfectly behaved. I was not a perfectly behaved child.
You were really a disruptor before they were calling people disruptors, in the kindest way, because I love disruptors.
I would say that at the time, adults might not have appreciated it. My sister, just younger than me, is the perfect child, right? Like, she never got into trouble. I was climbing out windows,
But you were also wearing beautiful clothes doing it. You were modeling from the time you were young.
From the time I could walk. And my mother was a model. My mother was a striking woman. And she was also a very talented dressmaker. Not professionally, but avocationally. And in those days, in the 50s, right, mm-hmm. everyone knew how to sew. But she was an exquisite seamstress.
Did you take sewing lessons?
Oh, I didn't have to. She taught me from the time, like, at her knee,
you were sewing.
Like French seams were what we did. I mean, we did not slap it together. So clothes and fashion and all of that was always a part of my life, a happy part of my life, and something I share with my mom. Right?
And I love that you have, certainly we came together through fashion,
We
and we
did.
came together through philanthropy. But I love it when the women of fashion bring people together for real conversations. And reading about how this started, I think it was 1988 was the first reference that you were looking at these machines and what do you call them?
The vending machines
vending
in elementary
machines in the
schools.
schools, and saying, look at what kids are eating and look at
It's
what we're
terrible.
putting in our body and what are we going to do about it? And most people stop there.
Right. It was in the mid 90s, but it's
Okay.
still. Yeah, most people do stop there, but I'm a little obsessive compulsive when I was, I love to cook, right? I'm all about food. My practice husband was in the restaurant business. I spent many years in and around and behind the scenes in restaurants, understanding food. When I had my son, we were living in California, and it was during the meat boycott and the grape all the boycotts, and so I became very tuned into food. Sugar Blues came out, that book, Sugar Blues. It talked about the effect of sugar on your body. Something I'd never thought of. I'm a flocka, right? I've been skinny my whole life. I never had to think about what I ate. I ate terribly. Even though we had fabulous food at home and we had gardens and we really cooked, but I also downed milkshakes like no tomorrow and ate chocolate like it was popcorn, and I never had to worry about
your
gaining
metabolism
weight, because my metabolism just burned through it. And I remember my aunt saying, "Oh, don't worry, someday it'll get back to you." It's true. I have no skills whatsoever when it comes to that, But during that time, it was when I was pregnant with my son, who's now nearly 50, that I started learning about food and the effect on the body. Not just my love of cooking, not just what's yummy to eat and what's not, right? Not just being mindless about it, but the actual effect of foods on the body. And so I raised him, and without prepared foods, without fast food, without soda, without all of those things. I made I was that crunchy hippie mom.
And
Whatever
that wasn't
we had
a
for
thing
dinner.
then. Everybody wasn't doing it.
Everybody
Maybe there was a
wasn't doing it.
pocket doing it.
In
and maybe
California.
California it was more
In California,
prevalent, but
exactly.
certainly not in Texas.
Exactly. But I was in California, so whatever we had for dinner, I would just throw it in the blender, and that's what he had. So, I mean, I didn't trust baby food. I didn't trust any of that. So he developed a wonderful palate too.
Yes.
And not dependent on sugar. And that was just kind of the baseline of it. I wasn't active. I was only focused on my own family and my own health and how we lived and how we rolled, right? But it was after all the kids were gone that I discovered this issue. And it just incensed me, and I had the time because I didn't have a lot of kids at home. Right? I all of a sudden had a lot of time on my hands, and I thought, my gosh, I couldn't have raised my own children with my sensibilities if there had been vending machines in elementary schools at the time, because and I also understood marketing and the power of marketing on a child, a 5 or 6-year-old. Has no capacity to determine the difference between a sales pitch and facts, right? They think if they read it or if they see it, that is fact coming in. They don't have that discernibility. And also there's this propensity, if little Johnny has 75 cents in his pocket and his mommy says you can't have soft drinks, but there's a vending machine full of soft drinks and he has 75 cents. He wants what's in there. You could put apples in the vending machine. He would buy the apple, but he's got to have what's in the vending machine.
Right.
So Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all the big ones were getting what they call cradle to grave customers, capturing them at 5 and 6. Pepsi drinkers, Coke drinkers, they're never going to change. They're always going to be that, right? And they were making money on it. And the schools were making money on it. Everybody's making money on it, and our children are suffering. And I thought, what the heck? This is just not right. So that I got to work trying to get vending machines removed from elementary schools in Texas. believe it or not, Texas was the first state to do that. That's not like
Wow.
us.
It
It's
is
not like us.
It is so progressive of
Yeah,
us.
right. We'll
to
have
do
none of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we were able to do that. But it was during that process
Mm-hmm.
of trying to get that done. And at the time I had retired, like I said, I had all this time on my hand. I was writing feature articles for different publications, local and national ones. And I started getting myself assigned stories about organic food and about the obesity trends and just foodways and that kind of thing. Because journalists, you're one,
Yes.
journalists can ask questions with impunity, right? And so I was asking lots of questions. So what do you do with that money that you're making off of those vending machines, right? Or did Pepsi take you on that trip to Disney last year? I embarrassed a lot of people. That was my role in getting vending machines out of the schools.
But it's incredible. So there's a term, I don't know if you read it when I sent you that, but I discovered called Ikigai. And it's a Japanese term. And when you can figure out what you're passionate about, what you love to do, what makes the world a better place, and sometimes what you can get paid to do, you reach the state of flow where it's all working. So it's fascinating. You took what you were passionate about, which was helping these kids, and what you were being paid to do as a writer, and then you looped it all together and you made a difference in the world by doing it.
Well, it was really a path of discovery for me. So it was that first step. And I'm a big believer in it's the way my mind works. Not everybody works this way. I'm totally non-linear, right? So, and also open to things. So when you're going down a path and you discover something, to be open to activating on that discovery, it takes a willingness to pivot, takes a willingness to take a right turn. That doesn't fit everybody's personality.
It doesn't, because sometimes people are so focused on the final. But if you're truly passionate about a cause, wherever the cause takes you, you can also, so you were writing books and then you were sharing that and writing curriculum and.
Well, so what I was doing is I discovered this issue. And in this process, I discovered the issue of childhood obesity. And I was just horrified at it. And I started in journalism, we call it pulling the string, to follow the story, right? Not predetermining the story, but just like following the evidence and what's going on. And I became obsessed by it and what's going on and what's causing this. And I discovered that there are many causes. I mean, there's not just one direct A to B cause, but the predominant cause in most people, not everyone, is the food we eat, the actual food we eat, and the way we eat it. So think about it in the 50s, as an example, it was unusual for a family to not follow this pattern. Dinner at 5:30 or 6 around the table, the whole family.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
A whole meal, whatever your culture was, right? It could be the meat and potatoes kind of meal. And home prepared.
Right.
Right? And that was 99% of American families. And then by the 2000s, most of those meals were not at home. Less than 20% of those meals were around the table at home. Nobody was prepared. So actually, and I was a big feminist and out in front about women's rights and all of this, but one of the unintended consequences of the women's movement was
we weren't at home cooking home.
Nobody entered the kitchen when we left.
No.
Right? So we went out and got jobs and brought home the bacon, right? But nobody entered the kitchen when we left it. And so everybody was just doing the best they could to put a meal on the table, to put, food. And we also believe that if food is available, somebody has determined that it's safe. And my joke is, if it's approved by the FDA, it just means it won't kill you immediately, right? But all of these prepared foods that are super high in saturated fat, they're not against the law. You have to know what to put in your body. And you have to take the time to understand what is in that fast food, whatever that you're getting through the drive-through window and handing into the back seat to the kids to eat on the way to the softball game. Right?
And we had a wake-up call. I don't know if I even shared this with you, but our daughter has been diagnosed with a couple of chronic illnesses. One of them is dysautonomia, where her autonomic nervous system doesn't connect with her body in a way that it tells it what to do properly. So it was gastroparesis, which was a big part of it. It was tachycardia. She had continual inflammation. And so we were looking at so many homeopathic ways. What about the gut? How is the gut affecting all these things in her body? Because there's so much research about the gut health. So she, not through a doctor's office, not through Texas Children's, through a mother, she went on a low histamine diet, which means no food with histamines, which was no sugar, no dairy, no leftovers, no preservatives. And it was shocking how hard it was to find those foods, prepare those foods, have them available, and how when you developed a palate that was accustomed to those foods, the withdrawal your body went through before it was healed.
It's true. And so my favorite quote is from Mark Bittman. Eat food, not much, mostly plants. Right? So the idea is, in order to ensure that you know exactly what you're putting in your body, you need to just shop the perimeter of the grocery store. Stay out of the middle where all the prepared foods are. Shop the fresh produce section, the fresh, protein section. You don't have to be a vegetarian, but the fresh protein section. And if you feel comfortable, if there's an on-site bakery and you feel comfortable in, what kind of, I won't get into gluten and all that. Not everybody has those issues. But the closest you can get to the source of the food, that's what you need to do. So the challenge was how to mash that up with our current lifestyle, right? Because it takes a minute to make food. And then also children, and we had lost several generations of children, of mothers teaching their daughters always to cook, right? I taught my sons to cook. My sons do all the cooking in their own family. But the whole idea of sort of re-establishing some of those traditions, but also the idea of, I'll just go back and say, in all the data of all the inputs and all of this, I learned a couple of things that rang a bell. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I am a mom, right? And I know a couple things because all moms do. But the data came back amidst all the legions of data. Some data coming back saying kids who gardened made better eating decisions. Kids who cooked ate better. Hello, that makes a whole lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yes, because they're preparing their food. They're not just grabbing it and putting it in the microwave.
They know what they're eating. They're discerning. They're discerning. So I thought, all right, I understand marketing. You understand marketing, the power of marketing. Before age 11, children don't have that monitor blocking things. They take everything in. Before age 11, they're like sponges.
Okay.
And if you are participating in their development before age 11, you're helping to create that little human being. A lifetime of habits and attitudes and approaches to life at home, the way you live, what they learn in school, what they learn in their other activities. It just all feeds in. After age 11, a little switch starts turning, right? And they have become themselves. They are already themselves. And they keep going down that path. That further and further evolves. But after age 11, if you're trying to introduce something into their lives, it's not a part of them. You're trying to change them. And changing somebody, to use a business term, is very poor ROI. It's a very...
I love that. We got to remember that, Danette.
It's
changing
expensive.
someone.
It's expensive to change you or me, right? We know what we like. We're set in our ways. We're like, what? Right? But a little kid is like, sure. especially if you make something very accessible and
Mhm.
fun and engaging
Mhm.
and easy to touch.
Mhm.
And so that's how we developed our, well, first of all, I finally decided after trying to convince a lot of other people to do it, like, hey, I have some ideas. You have an idea. Why don't you do this? And that didn't work. I couldn't convince anybody else to do it. And so I finally thought, well, I guess I have to do it. My husband, Bob, was so cute. He goes, no, you don't. You don't have to do this.
I know.
Stop.
Please.
Those
Those
you don't
little
really have to-
napkins or whatever that say "Learn to say no."
Yeah. Like, no, I said I would do something. He goes, nobody remembers that.
Exactly. No one's counting on it.
Right. Exactly. But I really felt like I had to because nobody was doing anything about it. And I thought, okay, we're going to do 3 things. And I was thinking just Houston because Houston's big. It's in Texas. We had this huge problem.
It can make a big
Pardon
impact.
the pun.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
We're going to train the next generation of food consumers to make mindful eating decisions.
I love that
and
word.
that means developing learning content for kids younger than age 11, right? And then getting into schools in a high touch point environment and just giving them a lot of skills and life skills and knowledge that they'll have their whole lives and help them gain a perspective that will influence their whole lives. So, you know, think about your children. You do your best to raise them right.
Right.
They go away to college, right? They fall off the cliff. They gain the freshman 15. They're acting up. They're drinking too much. They're partying too much or whatever. And then 5-6 years later, they come back to being a real human being again. Back to their core, right? It doesn't mean that they're not ever going to go off the reservation because you have to explore your boundaries and test your limits. But you'll always come back to your centering place. And that will be embodied very much by all of your inputs before age 11.
Fascinating.
Yeah. And so that was the genesis of our Seed to Plate Nutrition Education program. Cooking, gardening, nutrition education just kind of snuck in there. Like the Peter Pan, the Pied Piper of healthy eating. I encouraged all my chef friends to get involved, and that's when chefs are just starting to get famous and all the chef television shows, and kids would see a chef come into the classroom in a toque and automatically think he was on one of the cooking shows.
He's famous. He's wearing that outfit, that uniform.
Exactly. And of course, the chefs all loved it too.
Yes, they were like, yeah, I'm famous.
Yeah. Hello. It was darling, and the enthusiasm and the changes, and so we would roll in and we would garden with them every month, and we would cook with them every month. And I had UT Health Science Center sort of on my shoulder, and their scientists developed we were having fun, but it was all serious. So we had developed the pilot. We were testing the pilot as we went all along, tweaking, perfecting, and adjusting until we got to the ultimate result. And our best results, when we said, okay, that's good, we're there, we're ready to expand, was over the course of an academic year, we were getting kids to eat 30% more vegetables without you having to beg them, right? Without you saying, please eat your broccoli.
Wow.
Right? And more importantly than that, their willingness to try new food. So they might not free choose the broccoli.
Right.
But if you put it on the plate and they'd never touched it before or seen it before, they're willing to try it. And that is huge.
So Bella went to a camp, and they called it the No Thank You Bite. Every meal they had to have a No Thank You Bite that they'd never tried before.
Yes.
And they couldn't say, that was the one pass, they couldn't say no thank you.
They couldn't say no thank you. We have the kids take
is that probably a positive way is better to do it than the no thank you bite?
We have kids take a food adventurer oath.
Oh, now that's
right?
positive. That's better.
Positive, and everybody likes to be an adventurer.
Yes.
Right? So I promise to eat everything that we have cooked or everything we have grown, depending on the class, right? And to not use words like ooh and yucky.
Ah, and that's empowering too, to
It's
find new
empowering.
vocabulary.
They can not like it, but they
Sure.
have to describe why. And part of our lessons, our lessons are very imbued with chef perspectives and chef knowledge. So it was chefs who helped me create the lesson plans, and part of it is teaching children. We actually now do the same lessons for adults, but teaching them about flavors. So naming all the flavors, understanding how they taste individually, but also how they taste together, right? Like, so what happens when you combine this one and that one? What happens when you combine this one and that one? And being able to describe the texture of food and the aroma of food and the visual aspects of food. And so it's like firing on all pistons, all your senses.
It's almost like a cultural experience.
It's creative too.
It is. And for them to have to name it takes reflection and not just an act. So it becomes so much more sensory on different levels.
That's it.
And they learn so much, not just about food, but about words and description and creativity. It's empowering on so many levels.
It is so empowering, because the next step is, once you can identify why you don't like something, it's the first step on the path to creating a result that you do like.
Wow. And that shows them change.
And they have the power.
And that gives them power. Wow, this is really beautiful.
So here's an example. Nobody likes Brussels sprouts. Well, I do, but let's just say hardly any kid likes Brussels sprouts. Typically because they've been cooked to death and served up to them and looking like yucky, right? But to get a child to describe why they don't like the Brussels sprout, right? And usually because it's bitter or it's mushy. And then we say, okay, well, let's try this. And we'll take the Brussels sprouts and we'll either unpeel all the little baby cabbages, or we'll chiffonade them. When I say we, I mean with the child. You know, scoosh them up with a little olive oil, throw them in the oven, and crisp them up. They'll taste like shoestring potatoes, right? Yes. They're crunchy and umami flavored. And then because they've caramelized a little bit. And then I can get a child to eat like 5 pounds of Brussels sprouts, just, you know, crisped up like that. They can't get enough of them. So hello, you do like Brussels sprouts. Oh, I do like Brussels sprouts. Now I know how to make them. So it's very empowering.
And they're even expanding to the parents.
That's it.
So you're going to the kids, and then the kids are saying, can we
have Brussels sprouts?
Brussels sprouts. And the mom's saying,
what?
How do I cook those?
Well, and that's the thing in classes, the kids get the recipes, I get to take them home. Yeah. But then that point that you just talked about is important, not just for, you know, all parents, but particularly for parents with limited means who might be relying on SNAP, or even if they don't get SNAP, limited food budgets.
Fresh is more expensive?
It's not more expensive. That's
okay,
a misnomer.
Good. That's a misnomer.
That's
good
a misnomer.
To know.
But parents, understandably, are unwilling to spend money on food that their kids won't eat.
Exactly.
So they're going to buy the food, and we all, you know, slip back into that. So I'm like, oh, well, okay, just get them the can of Chef Boyardee. That's what we used to do when we were like, all right.
They're going to eat.
They're going to eat. Like, gotta
I
get
have
something
enough to battle with.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I don't want to have this battle. Yes.
Exactly. Tonight we're doing pizza. Right. So give them what they can eat. And so when the child then is so excited about having just had this or that in cooking class and knowing how to make it, wanting to come home and show mommy how to make it, right? And then mommy feels okay about buying Brussels sprouts. You know, bag of Brussels sprouts costs less than a big bag of potato chips.
Oh, wow. Okay, I did not think of it in that way, and you're right.
Right. And a whole bag of apples, you know how you can get them by the bag, definitely costs less than a family-sized bag of potato chips.
So interesting.
And think about how much mileage you get out of a whole bag of apples.
So how did that go from Houston to broader? How did you make that step?
That was accidental. I mean,
Beautiful.
accidental, but also
Organic, maybe?
organic, taking, following the path that comes. So we were very fortunate in our first year in the classroom. Um, the Houston PBS station, there was a great local program. It's always changing, but Laura Lucas was the producer of this local program in those days. And she came into the classroom and filmed us and did a whole story about what I was doing in the classroom. And at that point, I'd said all along I was going to do these 3 things, but the first thing I was doing was just in the classroom. I mean, it was huge, but just in the classroom.
Oh,
and so,
sorry. That's Rob.
Is that Laura?
Exactly.
Does she want us on TV again?
It's not supposed to break through, but Rob and Bella break through. Sorry.
Yeah, of course they do.
Living the authentic life.
That's right. And so Laura did this great story about what we were up to in the classroom. And the way PBS works is they do local programming, then it feeds into, I'm going to use the wrong words because I'm not in the PBS business, but it feeds into like a channel that's available to all PBS stations across the country. Oh. And so local affiliates are picking it up to fill a random 30 minutes.
Sure.
Right? And so all of a sudden the phone's ringing from all over the country, like, well, I'm in Pennsylvania, I want to do something. I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, I don't have anything for you yet, but let us think about how we can do that, right? And so that sort of started the thought process. Then my son was working in DC at the time and on the Hill, and then he got involved in the Obama's campaign for president and ran comms for a big chunk of the country for that, and then joined the administration. And we were also very involved in the campaign. And during that process, this was something that the soon-to-be First Lady was interested in. And her chef, Sam Cass, they had a family chef, Sam Cass. Sam was super interested in it. And so once you get into the White House and the First Lady has to decide what's going to be my thing, right? And Michelle Obama decided her thing was going to be childhood obesity and how could we go about that. And so just through that sort of random confluence of cocktail parties and meetings and raising money for a president and, my awesome son, I served on the committee to help create. Oh, trust me and 1,000 other very talented people, but to create a program that she launched called Let's Move.
Wow.
And in fact, on my birthday I forget the year, some birthday, I can't remember which one, I think 2012, anyway, we did a call to action on the lawn of the White House. And
Amazing.
Recipe for Success Foundation was held up as a best practice, and we invited chefs from all over the country, and the whole lawn was just full of chefs in their toques, and Sam and Michelle. Everybody's talking about how we're going to do this thing.
And
it was so amazing. And several chefs who had been helping me here, several folks went up. Kieran Verma went up, Barbara McKnight went up, Monica Pope went up, and several folks were with me for that, which was so exciting. And to be sort of like knocking around, among all these fancy people, right? And so during that process, and here we are working away in Houston, doing our thing. And during that process, the folks in charge of stuff, right, started saying, well, you need to scale. We need you to scale. And I was just like, I am scaling. We're scaling in schools across Houston. They are like, no.
We're like, gonna scale.
We mean really scale. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, that's true. Like,
yeah, if we're doing it here, why can't we do it?
Well, also, if it's going to happen, now's the time. I mean, when are we going to have an advocate in the bully pulpit of the White House?
Exactly.
Right? You gotta.
What a voice for
leverage
change.
That. Yes, amazing.
100%.
And so literally I came home to a board meeting and I said, you guys, they have asked us to scale, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but I said yes, so I'm jumping on the train.
Who wants to jump on the train with me?
I'm jumping on the train. FedEx my clothes. I mean, we're on it. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
But what a God wink, what a answer from the universe that you were on a path that was meaningful, that it was meant to grow, and that in a time when people were looking for answers, that you had solutions that were scalable.
And already tested. Right? They didn't have to make it up. Trust me.
Medically, through actual buy-in with the kids, because you can't, I guess you can't, we're saying you can market to a child, but to get a child to change their food, any mom is going to know that's not an easy task.
Plus the thing is, hey, it's not rocket science cooking and getting a kid in the kitchen cooking. And most cooking with kids programs are like making cookies and making pancakes and that kind of thing. And it's not rocket science to get kids involved in the garden either. And so I'm not saying that we're geniuses in that sense of the word, but what we did was we took those two very important activities and we built them into an actual real curriculum. So think about a math curriculum. You start out learning your 1, 2, 3s, and you end up in advanced calculus.
On it. Sure.
And it's scaffolded.
Right.
And so approaching it, not like a mom, but like an educator. So we took the mom instincts, we took the chef instincts, we took our content and our ability to engage children, and then we brought the educators in, and that's how we built the curriculum, so that it's properly scaffolded, so that it affects change. It's not just busy work. And that's really what sets our program apart from any just random cooking and gardening program.
I really have, over the last few years, dove into living the most authentic life, living your best life, what it takes to come alive. Found a lot of research about Dan Buettner, blue zones, the longest lived people, and 7 of the 9 characteristics are connection, and a big part of that connection, then the other 2, I believe, are food. And it's about, but the physicality of the gardening and the taking it out and the being part and being outside and being part of a community to come together. And that's so much of what you're doing with Hope Farms too. It's all that encompassed.
It's all in a piece. So you have, the result is important.
Sure.
Right? But the process is life affirming.
Oh, I like that word.
So imagine that there's nothing more personal than preparing food for somebody. Me preparing something for you that you're going to put in your body. Right? Think about it. We take it for granted, but there's nothing actually more powerful and more personal. And there's nothing more gratifying than planting a seed and nurturing that seed and then having it turn into something amazingly delicious or beautiful. Right? And getting tactily in touch with the earth and getting in sync with the seasons and the rhythm of Mother Nature. She doesn't always play nice, right? But it's really, it lifts your spirits just to be out in that. We all live in cities. We're busy, busy, busy. We're surrounded by electronics and not sunlight.
Yes.
Right? We don't feel a breeze. We're in climate controlled environments. We could actually live in hermetically sealed boxes all day long and not have a clue what's going on outside in nature. And so the other positive consequences of this, of zeroing in on a healthy diet of real whole food and being mindful about what you put in your body, the methodology to get there puts you in touch with so many other things. It puts you in touch with the earth. It puts you in touch with the rhythms of the earth. I'm not expecting you to grow all your own food. But if you get outside and putter in the garden, or if you get out on the balcony and even putter around in some pots, right, you grow a real appreciation for the mystery of life
It is. And Rob and I don't garden much, but the last 2 weekends we've gardened. It was pretty funny because we were talking about he broke a sprinkler head by us doing it because we were like, wow.
We're playing in the yard.
Yes, exactly. That cost us more than paying someone to do it. But just being outside, the dog was sitting with us, the neighbors were coming by, there's community, you're talking, didn't have my phone for 2 hours,
Right.
and leaning over. I remember telling my dad last summer in Colorado, I'm like, Dad, why are you planning all this stuff? You should hire someone to do it. And then it took me a few weeks, and then I said, I was so wrong. You should be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
This is what makes you at 80-something still alive,
Right.
living, feeling. And it hurts more because you're bending over and as you age, but it is.
It's better for you.
It's very grounding.
Maybe a little better than binging on a new show.
Absolutely.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So when we say we don't have time
Yes.
to cook, or that we don't
Mhm.
have time to putt around in the garden, and if you just take a look at how much, if you've got that app
Yes,
on your
the
phone,
app
so
that
it
tells
says
you how much time you
how
spend
much time
on the
you spend
phone.
online scrolling, and how much
Mhm.
time you spend watching something, mindlessly watching something, and that is just building our anxiety.
It is.
Those behaviors are building our anxiety
Mhm.
and making us feel kind of empty. I do it too. I mean, like you have a rough week and you're just like, okay, I'm going to collapse
I
on the
need to
sofa.
veg. Yes.
I'm going to veg. I'm going to just like flatline,
Mhm.
on some binge show and watch all 8 seasons, back to back. And that's fine, occasionally, but that can't be like the every Saturday thing.
No, it can't. So are you watching Swans Feud?
Oh, yes, of course.
Truman Capote.
Of course.
And
Yes.
there are some incredible swans in Houston. I
I
take
agree.
what they say with a grain of salt. Like, I think they were trying to undermine the impact these women made on communities and what they did through their charitable works by making them look so frivolous. I hope that they made more impact than what was shown and depicted.
Well, keep this in mind, and of course, none of us can be defined by one personality trait.
Right.
Just
They're
because
showing
we just see
one part of it.
that piece of them.
Yes.
And some of them may only have that piece, but most of them probably have other pieces
A
as
lot
well.
of pieces.
But that wasn't the story,
Yes.
right?
But CZ Guest, she was big at gardening, and I
Mhm.
loved watching that. But it was more of a pastime it was more of a, in years past, it was more of a...
Women didn't work, right? So gardening, you could define yourself with a beautiful garden. You could define yourself with entertaining.
Interesting. It was almost an expression of your creativity.
That's right. Exactly.
Oh, and your beauty.
Right.
Artwork in your yard.
How you decorated your house. Of course, I'm an architect, so I've decorated many houses, right? And I love a beautiful home, but it's just another method of self-expression. And you witnessed, even in we're witnessing in Swans, just the toxic kind of relationships that used to exist and still exist, in marriages where there are certain expectations, from the wife, and this is her job, and this is what she does, and that doesn't mean that she's going to live her dream life. That means she's performing, right? She's doing her part of the bargain. And so people only see it from the outside, the beautiful clothes, the beautiful jewelry. It doesn't mean they're it doesn't mean they're happy. And think of how unhappy they were if they were divulging their deepest secrets to a journalist.
Exactly.
Just think about that. I don't care how entertaining he was.
Right. It was a questionable share.
It was a questionable share.
To say the least.
As anybody who has run companies or has a comms team, right, like any communication or media person will tell you, there's no such thing as off the record.
Never. And if you're going to say it, well, Siri's going to hear you on your phone and definitely record it for
That's it.
whomever to know.
Exactly. So those poor babies.
Yes. Tell us about the event. April 21st.
Oh,
Fashion in the Fields. It's truly less than a handful of my favorite events per year because it's such a beautiful, you've been blessed with pretty weather, but it's a beautiful space in the midst of the work you're doing, which I think is special because I think sometimes we get so detached from why we're at a
what's
place.
this about?
What's this about? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And to be in the midst of your farm and to see it there.
I love it because it brings so many things that I love together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you, I'm not easily defined. Yes, I love fashion. And oh, yeah, by the way, yes, I love art. And yes, I love music. And yes, I love farming and gardening and food, right? We're not just one thing.
Yes.
And so the opportunity to bring multiple passions together in one space is so exhilarating. And in fact, I think I might have shared this with you earlier. The concept of fashion in the fields was my longtime friend Mickey Rosemarin's concept. And Mickey and I have been friends since he was selling T-shirts and I was wearing them, I like to say.
And he's the founder of Tootsie's, for those who don't know.
And just a remarkable man and a joyous, true friend. And he was a huge fan of Recipe for Success. And in my early years, helped me raise lots and lots of money. He brought lots of designers to town. We did so many events at Tootsie's to raise money. And he was always very generous in that sense. And so the farm was always in the vision plan for Recipe for Success, but it just took a minute for all the pieces to come together, the right land, the right place, the right this, the right that. And so sadly, we had just closed on the land right before Mickey died, but we had been working on it, for a long time. And he said, I can't wait for the farm. We're going to do fashion in the fields. I can see it now. We're going to do fashion in the fields.
Real emotional, beautiful.
Yeah. And so just the name is near.
Yes.
I mean, it makes me think of Mickey all the time. In fact, I've got a walkway at the farm that's got a fruit tree alley down each side that we call Mickey's Way. It's a permanent. It's anyway. So Fashion in the Fields this year, this spring, is on April 21st, and which is the day before Earth Day. So we're very much celebrating, as we do every year, the concept of Earth Day. And we like to say every day is Earth Day at Hope Farms. And with that, we go to so many events, but how many events can you include your family in? We always wanted it to be a family-friendly event. And so we've incorporated the children in the fashion show, Itsy Bitsy Boutique, darling children's lines. So the children of the table sponsors are going up and down the runway. This year, Impenner is also involved with fashions. Longtime friends.
I saw Karen last night.
Yes, they too have done events for us at the store many times. We used to do an event there we called Men We Love. But Karen and Murray are providing fashions, and we'll have different men in our world going up and down the runway. And then the pros are going to be wearing Lindsay Zorch, Mason's daughter line from the Avenue. And also Magpies and Peacocks, which is a nonprofit that's focused on sustainable fashion, and they create. Have you seen their lines?
I've heard about the former airline seats that they translated into fashion.
Amazing fashion. So Southwest Airlines gave them all their leftover upholstery leather.
Yes, which you are like, what?
Which is all blue. Fashion? It's all blue. And they have all of these beautiful clothes that they made from it. And so that's what they do. They take end runs. They take deadbolts. They take recycled clothing. And they teach people, and they work with designers, and they cultivate and mentor designers to transform that into really exquisite high fashion, edgy stuff. I'm not talking, it does, it's not toss off. They've had fabulous, their line has been presented at London Fashion Week many times.
Oh,
they
yes.
have They've collaborated with Gucci. They've been a Gucci partner before, with Emily Armenta on jewelry. And so just very creative folks, and always been, it fills my heart to say, involved with and fans of Recipe for Success and Hope Farm. So it'll be fun to have their fashions on the runway too. So
and I love you call them fans, because when I asked you about the RSVP list for our kickoff party, you're like, our fans. And literally, there are fans. Like, you're a rock star girl, and they come to be with you.
Well, I think I don't know that it's me. I think
no,
it
but
is
you're
us.
you're the one putting together the team and creating the experiences, the farm. You're the leader and you're the girl boss, and it's truly.
Well, life is short, and we're doing important things, but you got to have fun.
Yes. And I think you are having fun. All your events have been fun, and you have consistently shown up. And sometimes I think that's the thing, is just to show up with joy and passion repeatedly, that if you do that, you've got a really good shot at making it.
What makes my day?
Exactly.
At the end of the day, that's the one I live with, my own day. Right.
And your board is really interesting. So Sherry Frady is an old friend of mine. Adore her. She was a former podcast guest, and she was one of the youngest pilots at Hobby Airport in the 80s.
Yeah.
And was originally a flight attendant. So she's quite a girl boss to have broken through that sort of stereotype of women being flight attendants versus pilots. But then you also have a new, fresh, younger group of people coming through, which I think is really nice to see these great philanthropic young people making a difference.
It's important. I mean, to keep the foundation vital and sustained and continue beyond my span, right? It's important. Of course, when I started the foundation, it was with our money and all my friends. Right? Like, hey, come be on this board. And so in the beginning, it was my closest friends on the board, and also volunteering with me in the classroom. I'd be like, okay, we're going to go here today. And everybody would like muster. And that was fun and exhilarating. Robert Del Grande calls it like the guerrilla times. It was it was like Wild West. But it was a lot of fun, but not sustainable. It had to grow beyond my posse. Right. In order to be sustainable. And so we've consistently worked to grow the board to have a nice balance of a corporate representation, young parents, older parents, grandparents, I like to say, right? So a little bit of everything. And so there's a nice flow. There's there's wisdom, right? There's professionals at the table, and as well as that overlay of the parent perspective, right, is important.
And then you also receive grants, $1 million grant from the U.S.
Well, yeah,
DA?
we live on philanthropy, right? And so we've got a budget that's nearly $2 million a year. And that's why there are holes in my knees, right?
Because you're physically working.
Begging all the time.
Oh, well, okay. All right. Well, yes, I could.
And physically working.
Yes. But, on your knees doing the gardening.
Yes, that too.
I'm sure we could catch you out there.
Doing all that. But yes, we were very fortunate to get. I'll just back up and say when I concepted the farm, the idea was to build a growing space in the middle of a neighborhood that had poor access to vegetables, to grow vegetables for them there, but also
it's in Sunnyside.
It's in Sunnyside, which is just outside the Loop, the South Loop.
Only
it's like
15 miles from.
It takes me 12 minutes from my house. I live next to the Museum of Fine Arts. It's just boom fast.
Right.
But the other problem is I felt like it should not just be our farm. I wanted to help expand the footprint of urban farms throughout Houston. And so in order to do that, you have to teach people how to be successful professional farmers. So you know the difference between a gardener and a farmer.
A farmer is paid?
Farming is a business, right? So you have to have all that horticultural knowledge, and then you have to know how to turn it into a business that makes more money than it spends, right? Not your $35 tomato. right?
Exactly.
Right?
Because who in the community?
Well, nobody's going to buy that, but
Yes, exactly.
you can't sustain yourself.
Right.
So we created a farmer training program. We always knew we wanted to do that, but then talk about seeing something in the road and going, oh, what's this? Let's do this one. In my time in DC and all of this run up to Let's Move, discovered the impact of what they began initially calling horticultural therapy on returning vets coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq who have post-traumatic stress. And they called it horticultural therapy. If they could get them out in the garden, working in the garden or volunteering on the farm, it just like soothed their souls, and it was so good for them. And so I said, well, heck, let's teach them to farm. Like let's make that a thing as a focus, not just teach anybody to farm, but let's teach veterans to farm. And
do you have a way that you can take that to other communities around the country?
Well, we love for people to replicate us. So we were able to get the first and I think the largest grant that the Veterans Administration and the USDA teamed up to create this thing called AgVet Grant to design and develop and test a learning a training program for veterans. And so we $1 million grant over multiple years to do this, and that was the genesis of putting our farmer training program together. And so we learned what we didn't know. We learned new things. We tested our suppositions. We adjusted. We came out the other end after 5 years with a very powerful result and a beautiful curriculum. So we have a 12-week deep dive curriculum. We call it, our old director used to call it boot camp. That is 20 hours a week on the farm, hands-on lectures from topic experts on everything that you need to know in order to be successful as an urban farmer, or at least the baseline of what you need to know, and then time spent in the field side by side with our professional farmers. So you come out of that 12 weeks and you either know, what was I thinking? There's no way I want to be a farmer. It's hot. It's hard. It's complicated, right? It's harder than I thought. It's not like growing vegetables at home. Some people do make that decision, but that's an important decision to make.
It is to not risk all that money investing into something that won't give you that.
That's it. And so you either go that direction, or thankfully most folks, about 80%, then are well prepared. They know what they need. And some of that is they know what they still need to know or what they still need to learn, right? To make that decision to go professional with their farm and at what scale they want to do it. And whether they want to do it deep in the city or in the near suburbs, or if they want to go ahead and get outside of the city. Do they want to do something like an acre or less, rural micro? Do they want, they'll make pretty much all those decisions in the course of the 12 weeks, because they'll have an understanding then of what that decision means on the workload. What would it take to scale, right? Like what could they do by themselves versus what do they need an employee team for? And then once they get through the 12 weeks, they qualify to go on to master classes. And in fact, I teach the business master track. So, which is hilarious, I think. It's hilarious to me, but
I mean, what have you not done? And I think that's part of being a business owner, is you have to be prepared to do so little. Like, I spend so little time with the handbag or the piece of jewelry.
Right.
You spend other time doing all these other things, right? And so you get passionate about something, but you have to realize as a business owner, what you're passionate about is not
what you end up doing, right?
Exactly. Like the artist that doesn't have time to paint.
Because they don't have an agent. Like, get out of your own way. But you don't need the help. You don't know the help you need until you go through it
and understand the landscape of it.
Exactly. So I lead, I have 8 masterclass sessions that start with the basics of, your mission and your vision and your 5-year plan and goals and objectives, and then leads people through the whole concept of marketing and how do you market and,
incredible.
Yes. What are the deliverables, and then accounting and finance and all the steps to that you need to create a business plan to take to the bank, right? Just in case you need to go to the bank.
Well, exactly.
And if you don't need to go to the bank, there are. But if you don't need to go to the bank, you still need that plan for yourself. Because as you know,
absolutely,
it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole. It's so easy to start coloring outside the lines and say, and get distracted from your goal. Right?
Yes.
So,
well, I've met so many business owners who are passionate about the widget they created. And when I said, so how many of those widgets do you have to sell? And what's your plan to get those widgets out to sell them? People are going to buy them from me. I don't have a plan. And you're like,
oh, honey. Bless your heart.
Bless your heart. We're from Texas. That's what we say when you that today. I mean, really. But wow. I mean, bless your heart. Bless your heart for sticking with it, for being so vested in the people in our community and the people around our country. You are changing so many lives, and it really, I am drinking your Kool-Aid more than I ever have.
Oh,
I
love it.
Buying what you're selling, girl. Like, it is truly about changing communities and coming together, and I love that part of it too, because there's so few ways that we are all like letting go of politics and religion and stereotypes to be together. And I think food is a way to connect. I'm Italian. That's how you walk in my house and my parents are like, what do you want to eat? Right. I'm not hungry. You're going to eat.
All the best things happen around a table.
Yes, exactly.
All the best things happen around a table.
They do.
Right?
It's such a, wow. Is there anything we didn't touch on you want to share with our listeners?
So I can't wait to see you on Feb 21 at our fabulous Fashion in the Field show. But that's a short-term thing.
Yes.
In the meantime, anybody who is in or near Houston or stopping by or coming through, come out to Hope Farms and see what we're up to. And we're open every Saturday from 9 to 1. And the first Saturday of every month, we turn it into a little festival. And so we have other people around. So April, first Saturday is coming up. So lots of things are happening. April is Poetry Month. It's Gardening Month. It's It's Earth Month, right? We have a haiku contest every year, right? And so I'm on the board of Imprint. I've got the Imprint Poetry Buskers coming. And we've got Caitlin Steets, who's just stepped off the train. You know, she was is an amazing chef and led the kitchens at Theodore Rex and all of Justin Wu's restaurants. She's so talented and known for her veg. And she's kind of stepping off for a little sabbatical for a while. So you won't get to eat her food unless you come to our free cooking classes on April the 6th. So on the first Saturday of every month, we have free cooking classes, free gardening classes, lots of extra things happening at market. And that's every month. So it can be next month or it can be next year, and we can see you at the farm.
Beautiful. And how can they order produce? I love that part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Fresh produce delivered to your home.
Right to your door every Thursday. Right. So
on your website?
On the Hope Farms website, which is hopefarmshtx.org.
Okay.
There's a way to just click through and buy our produce.
And flowers?
And flowers. Yes. During the pandemic, I started
a
flower farm. Oh, yeah. Look.
I match it. It matches me, whatever the case shall be.
I started Flower Child, because I are one.
You are one.
Urban Farm and Studio during the pandemic, because of course I didn't have enough to do.
Yes.
And so I grew all of these. I grow flowers year round, and my customers subscribe to bouquets that we deliver every week or every month or every season. We've got a birthday club. You can you can join the birthday club and send me a list of 12 of your friends' birthdays, and we'll send out 12 gifts through the year to your friends whenever their birthdays are, and you just pay me once a month through the year.
Brilliant.
Birthday club.
Love that.
Very fun.
Love that.
And I do a handful of little weddings and events and things, but I go see my grandkids a lot, so
Good.
I just do a handful of those.
Yes. Well, you are a handful, and a very fabulous handful. And I'm just speechless.
Well,
truly, thank you
It's
for
a joy to be here. And
for
to be with you.
sharing your passion and your excitement. And guys, find out what you love to do and know that you can make a difference. That's what I just want, is people to be inspired to keep trying and to not give up, and to believe that they have hope, and to believe that they could be the difference in their community. And there's so many ways they can get connected through Hope Farms if they don't know how to do it, or through Recipe for Success, and to connect with people. Because I find that when I'm the most empty, when I give to someone else, I feel the most full.
Well, there is actual evidence that proves that giving actually fills your heart. Giving of yourself fills your heart and soothes your soul. So there's science behind that.
Yes.
Right? Like being with flowers actually brings you joy. Physically brings you joy. Eating delicious, fresh food is a sensory experience. Joining your friends and family around a table is building memories that this is what I say, this is my quote, that shared meals around the table weave the memories of family and community and life.
I love that. Well, you are a weaver girl.
Come join our table.
I love it.
Come join our table.
Absolutely. Keep living the authentic life. Until next week. Thanks.